want to make sure that we can get through all of the content that we've planned for today.
Absolutely. We'll give everybody about a minute or so to get situated, and then we're gonna roll on.
All right. Well, maybe what I'll do while we're waiting is I'll just post a few links in the chat box myself. Get people some information about you and I while we're waiting to start. There's some links there on My Business Launch Mechanic. We've got some LinkedIn, Facebook pages for you all. A lot of really exciting projects that Rob and I are working on together that we'll tell you more about as we go through the webinar. And in the interim, we just want to make sure you have these links so that you can reach us anytime that you'd like. If you have any questions on any of the content, or you just want to have a chat about your own business, we're happy to do that. Get all these good resources in here for you. Both Rob and I do a fair amount of work on LinkedIn, social, getting the word out about your businesses. So feel free to share with us what you're working on and anything about your business that you'd like for us to promote through our social channels. We'd be happy to do that where we can.
Absolutely. And we're all friends now, so feel free to plug us or tag us in your posts and whatnot. We'll help you get some additional traction on there as well.
Yep. Those are all of our introductory links, Rob. So I think while people are still entering the room, I'll just go ahead and get the introduction started so we can stay on course. Is that all right with you?
Beautiful. Let's roll.
All right. So welcome, everybody. I'm Chris Carr. I'm your moderator today for this session. I'll just tell you a couple of brief words about myself. I've been working with small businesses and startups now for more than 25 years, and in particular, also doing a fair amount of work around the world. So I've got some background in Asia and spent many years working with small businesses from Canada. Also a co-founder of an accelerator program based out of Boston. And Rob and I were acquainted through, were introduced through a mutual acquaintance. And I was very interested in developing a community for veterans, providing small business content and resources for veterans. And Rob and I struck up an alliance, and we really enjoyed developing a series together called Spring Launch. And that's what you're here to, that's what you're here to hear about today, is Spring Launch. And actually this particular webinar is the third in a series that Rob and I developed. So the first one was all about your great idea and how to turn that into a business. The second one we had just last week was about registering your company and forming your company and how to choose the right legal structure. And we had a terrific presenter for that webinar. We do have recordings of both of those, so we're happy to share those with you if you wish. Just shoot us an email and we'll get those to you. We also, of course, have to thank our friends and partners at Next Street and Verizon for setting up all the technology for us. Thank you, Tyler, Matthew, Joanne, everybody who helped us get in front of this audience today. It's a really exciting opportunity for all of us to work together, discuss and share how we can attack the sales challenges that we have with our businesses. I'd like to just take a couple of minutes and also introduce Rob. If you could just scroll the presentation forward one slide, Rob. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Rob, it's been such a pleasure working with you for the first two sessions. Rob has experience in business development that actually extends across 4 different positions that he's had throughout his career. In addition to being a Marine Corps veteran and enlisted for many years in the service, he also is very proficient at recruiting veterans for large corporations and developing executive level recruiting programs for large corporations around the country. So Rob's business has really taken off, and he has a very specific understanding of the veteran mindset and the challenges and the goal and the mission of veterans when they get out of the service and they're trying to decide what it is they'd like to do next. Rob now has at least 2 channels. One is creating these programs with these big companies, as well as helping small business owners or aspiring entrepreneurs to make their small business dreams come true. And so for the latter work, Rob and I have joined together and partnered and developed Spring Launch to help veterans take advantage of these resources that we know about, especially here on Verizon SBDR, as well as both of our networks and colleagues and expertise that we have access to. So that's how Rob and I have become partners in this endeavor. And I've told you a bit about Spring Launch. I wanted to just start off before I hand it right over to Rob, just a couple of things on my mind this week, especially. One is that we're being told that we're in a period of business challenge. We all know the economy is a bit challenging at the moment, presenting us with a possibility of having to double down on our sales efforts and to really look closely at what we can do to get through this next session. And so for that reason, I think this presentation is very well timed. So we are in this market moment. We do have to be deliberate about how we're going to get through this economic period. And if we can just focus like a laser on the tactics and the strategies that are all around sales and our sales efforts, we can get through this period. It just requires planning. And I love the famous phrase that, Rob, you probably have heard this before. Plans are basically useless, but planning is everything. So that's what we're all about, and especially in the context of sales. And finally, I wanted to just mention two key points, and then I'll hand it right over. First of all, as you're listening to Rob, if I may make a suggestion, please reflect on what's being presented. At the same time, digest it. And if it's possible, think about it as a framework or a template that you can use as a tool and essentially apply your business to these templates. These are fantastic tools and scripts that you can use. So think about it that way as you're listening in. And the second really important key point is I wanted to point everybody back to the SBDR. There's a very good course called Planning for the Unexpected. And I would highly recommend that if you haven't taken it already. It's very complementary to this content, especially for considering how to develop multiple revenue streams. So have a look at that course if you can. We'll talk more about SBDR at the back end. And also at the back end, want to let you know about our accelerator program, which will be coming in January of 2023, and a call for applications in early January. So we'll talk more about that. And I'll stop there and hand it over to you, Rob. Thank you very much for being here today.
Awesome. No, thank you so much, Chris. And thank you so much for the introduction. So really excited about this session. As Chris said, this is the third session that we've done combined as Spring Launch with BufferSprings and Launch Mechanic, but this one is near and dear to my heart. So sales is my calling, my passion, and really where I found, my true calling in life. So I actually found this on accident while I was serving in the Marines, and I didn't really choose sales. Sales kind of chose me when I got voluntold to go out on Marine Corps recruiting duty. But once I closed that first sale and had that first person tell me, you know what, Sarge, like I want to do this, I want to be a Marine. Ever since that point, I was hooked. And after that, became a true student of the game, started consuming as much information and knowledge as that I could to try to really perfect my craft in sales. Sales is one of those positions. It's kind of like golf for any golfers who are in the room here. Even the best golfers in the world are not perfect. It's something that always changes. It always evolves, and something that you can just absorb and continue to evolve as an individual and as a professional. So that's one of the big things that calls out to me from sales. But after 12 years of active duty, I decided to take my passion to the civilian sector and continue to grow professionally of what I wasn't getting out of military service. So my company, BufferSprings, is actually a training and consulting firm that helps smart organizations hire, engage with, and retain high-quality military talent. And for the past decade, I've had the privilege and the honor of selling the greatest product in the world, as far as I'm concerned, and that is service members. And I also get to rest my head at night knowing that I'm making the companies that I work with stronger, while also changing the lives within our military connected community and now our fellow entrepreneurship community. So I appreciate all the small business owners hopping in today and realize that you're in great company here of other small business owners. But today I'd like to share some of the things that I've learned along the way that helped me and my company becomes successful. We'll leave links to the chat and some of these things here, but want to make this proactive, and hopefully you walk away with some great frameworks to evolve your business and step up to the next line in sales. So without further ado, enough about us. Let's get into the real reason why you came in today. Let's find out how to sell within our businesses. So the first portion of this is locking down your ICP. Your ICP is your ideal customer profile. This is also referred to as a customer avatar. We get into the weeds on this on session 1 of the Spring Launch session, but today we're going to really focus down on what that ICP is and why what it means to you. So for that ideal customer profile, what we recommend here is do not start with a market segment that's too large. Do not go after everybody who buys water or any huge, large, concentrated market that you can't really focus on, or else you're becoming a jack of all trades, master of none, and you're not able to really narrow down the focal points of your business. So especially at first with your organization, you can always divide and conquer and try to boil the ocean later. But in the beginning, what we recommend is to really niche down and find that ideal target of who would be your first 10 customers and what their personas look like and where you can make the most impact quickly out of the gates here as you're trying to get traction on your business. So with this concept here, your ICP, you have to get this right. You have to be obsessed with getting this right and know the ins and outs of the person you're trying to sell to, the channels of these people, of how they buy, how they go to market, how they absorb information, to really narrow this down to bring people to the light of what your product or your service is going to do for them. So as you're doing this, locking down that ICP, there are a few different things that you have to focus on here to really narrow that down. So one of the big things on there is knocking down like all these different demographic info or the company size. Now, this is a bad example. I'm just using Chuck Norris here as our ideal customer profile. The first point on there is kind of a moot point because Chuck Norris feels no pain. So we can leave that one off to the side for now. But looking at the age, the gender, the location, the occupation, the actual education of your background and your ideal customer, the demographics, their hobbies, characteristics, their buying behavior and their personality traits, and what they need to know from you before they actually move forward and purchase. This is very fundamental in the beginning, but very, this can determine whether it's make or break in these initial sales conversations. So as you're narrowing this down, start to really focus on a key customer profile that's going to make the most sense for your business and what the needs are there. The other thing that I'll say is that you have to look at how your solution is right for that individual, and if this is solving their problems or is something that is going to have a need generated for it. The other thing that I'll say in this is make sure that you're locating and finding a decision maker. The worst thing that we can do as small business owners, and for us, time is actually money. The worst thing that we can do is spend a lot of time with somebody and getting no's from someone who didn't have the authority to say yes in the first place. And I'm not trying to be crass in that. It's all, I understand we're going to do a portion here on networking and building rapport and building community out of your outreach. But in this portion here, this is a customer and someone who's going to be moving to a buying decision with you. You have to narrow down this focal point and have one specific target that you're aiming at instead of posting and praying all over the place and hoping that things happen for you. The next portion on here is going to be, how you're reaching out to these individuals and how you're actually setting the conditions for that next sale to come. So Chris and I had a conversation the other night, as a matter of fact, about cold calling being dead, and that we both disagreed with that. And I see a lot of different things that are out there from marketing firms and SEO agencies and saying that digital advertising is the way to go. And there's some truth to that, but I am a firm believer that calculated cold calling and outreach is still the best way to connect with people, reaching out ideally, finding that ideal customer profile and reaching out to them directly. One part of this is really to differentiate there. When I say cold calling, I'm not talking about spamming. I'm not talking about opening up the white pages and calling everybody A through Z and hoping that you get somebody there. It's a waste of your time. You're also killing your validity out there in the space by spamming people. So what we recommend here is using your ICP, create a meaningful outreach script that separates you from the rest of the herd. And the way to do this, as you can see the individual on here, if you didn't get the pun, this guy is cold and on a phone, he is cold calling. But this is the simple framework, and we're going to be sharing frameworks throughout the discussion today. But this is the framework that you should be building to actually create your intro or your cold calling script out of the gate. So the first portion of that is to say who you are and where you're reaching out from. State the purpose of the call or that email, and then what the value is to that actual customer or that end user. And then check for acceptance in that. So a sample script may sound something like this, and I'll do a fake phone call to Chris, and it's, hey, Chris, this is Rob Arndt from BufferSprings, where we help smart companies recruit, engage with, and retain top-tier military-connected talent. The reason why I'm calling you today is we have some really cool, I see that you have some really cool jobs posted on your site and a company culture that would be a great match for veterans and military spouses that we're currently working with. I'd love to take a few minutes of your time, find out more about your current military program, and perhaps find some ways that partnering with us could help you accelerate your efforts and strengthen your team. Would that be okay? And look, I hit all the wickets. I introduced myself and my company. I stated my purpose for calling and the value of that person on the end. It can't be all about me. It's got to be a mutually beneficial call. And then checking for acceptance. Is that okay with you? So after that point, the conversation kind of takes its own legs at that point and grows its own life. So you just start asking questions. You've already opened the door there. You're already having a conversation. And this is something that when I did sales training with individuals, this is something we would just call ordering pizza. Like, just make it a casual conversation between two human beings and see where things go. Ask engaging questions about their business. By this time, you've already done some baseline research on this individual, and the person you're calling on the other end is your ideal customer profile, remember. One pet peeve that I will say with cold calling is, and I see this all the time with newer sales reps, or even if it's just a nervous thing or whatever it is out there, but don't ask when someone answers the phone, do not ask, is this a good time? I can't tell you how many reps I've seen do this over the years. If they answer the phone, it's a good time. If they can't stay on long with you, then they're going to, tell you another time to call back or a more preferable time, or that they're not a fit for you. But never ask if it's a good time. You're simply giving them an out where they can say, you know what? Actually, it's not a good time. And that's not what you're trying to accomplish on that call. But use your outreach when you're talking to individuals. You have your initial ICP or your customer avatar that's there. But when you start finding out that they're not the right buyer persona, or tweaking that is going to come with doing outreach and just kind of the wear and tear of doing the outreach and doing the work and putting the work in there. So make sure that you're using your outreach to tweak that ICP as well. Next portion on here, we're going to talk about one of the most important things in doing your outreach. Oh, sorry, skipping ahead here. So if you've ever heard the saying, your network is your net worth, this is more prevalent than ever in business. Sales and business is a contact sport. You have a network with all of your dynamics and your audience, but you have two different people that you're really trying to get in front of. Number one is potential customers, people who you're looking to do business with, or potential partners that are out there. Your second are going to be referral partners, or other people that play in your space or your ecosystem that are talking to your ideal clients, or people that are having conversations with others that you may want to be having conversations with. What we'll say in this is, with it being a contact sport, like, get out there, be bold, shout what you do from the mountaintops, go to events. If you can, and better yet, speak at events. Find conferences that have to do with your industry or that your ideal customer consumes information at. Conferences, trade shows, do your research a year out of where these conferences are coming up, and find out where your ICP or your customer avatar gets their information, or where they network at, and be a part of that and merge into that field. When you look at these events and the conferences and you're doing your research, look out for call for speakers. That may be an opportunity for you to get in front of this target audience and showcase your subject matter expertise, maybe plug your products and talk about them, but also to gain relevancy and to gain reputation in that space, that you are somebody that needs to be talked to in that space. You can also look for things such as podcasts and webinars like we're on today, or jumping on panel discussions that are talking about a topic that pertains to your industry or your product or your service that you're offering there. But it's really about borrowing credibility or getting in front of that target audience without just the direct sale. We talked about the cold calling and why this is important, but this is more passively bringing in the right people. What I've found in my business early on is that when I get in front of veteran hiring forums or federal contractors that are mandated to hire veterans and give them some value and give them some unique talking points and help to showcase my skill sets and my expertise, I've got more organic business from that than I'll ever get from, just not doing anything and just sitting on my hands and hoping the leads come in. The other thing that you can do here is find out great business partners with synergies and set up reseller agreements or get other people talking about you. If you're a solo entrepreneur or have a small team, this is an extension of your team where you can have multiple people and friends talking about, you know what? I was talking to a guy from BufferSprings and I think they may be a match for you, but shout from the mountaintops what you do. Try to set up coffee chats with strategic allies and other people that are in the space there and keep continuing to build that network. Make sure it's not all me, but understand what they do in their business as well and find out some mutually beneficial ways that you can potentially work together. When you're building your network, and this is ever prevalent and ever true, is that it's all about who you know, you like, and you trust. And that's where great business is, where great business comes from. People do business with the people that they know, like, and trust. But you have to build that validity. You have to build that reputation in the space. And then great things come from that. And I can't count how many people that I met 5 years ago, 10 years ago, a year ago, that now come back to me because we had a good initial conversation, an initial good rapport, where they come back to want to do business with me later when the timing is more appropriate. Another thing you can do is engage on social media. So put your stuff out there, get your stuff out there, get your word out there, show your subject matter expertise, show your value in the space, but beware of false validation. And this is something that I learned the hard way. I was posting all these things people were liking, and I was like, this is great. I'm going to double down and start doing more on social media, but the likes were not turning into dollars. So make sure that you're monitoring that and making sure that the likes are turning into actual business. And it's not just people passively liking with a virtual thumb instead of liking with their wallets. And another thing, and Chris, I'll pass this over to you because I know you have some thoughts on this, but it's quality over quantity. As a small business owner, your time is literally money for you. And this outreach can either be something that consumes you and consumes time and becomes a liability, or if done properly, it's an asset. So Chris, I'll kick it over to you. I know you have a few points on this one.
Yeah, well, on the quality side, it's all about really getting that first customer if you're just starting out. So you can spend an awful lot of time, and I think we all do, on social media and a number of different direct marketing or e-channels. Ultimately, look at getting your first 1, 2, 3 customers, and then really go deep in understanding why they bought from you. And so that's what we talk about. That's what we mean when we talk about quality.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to one of the most important things that you can do in the sales process, and this is conducting a needs analysis. All right. The reason I have a doctor with a chart and a stethoscope and everything on here, I'm not a doctor by any means, nor have I ever played one on TV or anything else. But when I'm in this phase, I almost role play with myself and I pretend that I'm a doctor in veteran hiring. And even though a company came to me because they have a headache, I don't want to jump right into writing a prescription because I may be leaving money on the table. I may be assuming the wrong things about their business. So it's not the time for that yet in the initial conversation. So in this, what I like to do is go through the full chart and fully understand that even though you came into my veteran doctor's office today, I still want to know about everything, your legs, your back, everything that's going on there to figure out what's going on under the hood, or else it's malpractice on my part as a doctor to just make prescriptions without understanding the full scenario. And you should put yourself in that same position there as a doctor in your craft, because nobody knows your business and your features, your benefits better than you do. And there's 4 steps in doing this needs analysis process and 4 things that you're trying to accomplish. The first one is understanding the long and short-term business goals of that potential prospect. The second is identifying the desired performance or outcomes that they are looking for at this point. The third is examining the current performance efforts of what they're doing to try to fix this problem, and whether it's working out or whether it's not working out, there may be an opportunity for you to slide in there and help. The fourth is going to be establishing an appropriate solution. And this is how we'll cover this framework today of how to properly stack that in your favor. But if you are that solution, this is your way of finding that out. Whether you have a mutually beneficial fit, your product solves their problem, And they, being a customer, solves your problem of trying to acquire sales and revenue. So looking at it here, what you're trying to find in this needs analysis are pain points, are barriers or gaps, or even opportunities for them to work with you or to do business with you. You're looking for deficiencies in their process or problems that they're experiencing, and also asking them and doing a deep dive in what they're inevitably trying to accomplish and why they're trying to accomplish that goal. You have to understand where you offer value before you just start pitching products and everything else, or else you're just a used car salesman at the end of the day, trying to give somebody something that they don't necessarily want. And then in that needs analysis as well, again, I want to hit on this again to make sure that that individual has the decision-making ability, that they are a shot caller and they're able to make a decision about buying with you or signing on that line, which is dotted. But there's 6 things that, well, not necessarily 6 things, but there are a few things that customers definitely want and what you're looking for. And this is something that you have to prepare for yourself. But the first one is preparation. Customers want to know that you did your homework on them, that you're not just calling them out of the blue. I have so many things, so many people, and I'm sure all of you do as some small business owners yourselves, reach out to you on LinkedIn and say, we want to help with SEO, or, hey, have you ever thought about owning a business? We should give you, we're talking about selling franchises. They didn't actually look at my LinkedIn profile, and right there, that kills validity. So do a little bit of homework. I can see that your company has great jobs that would be an awesome fit for military veterans, or that you have a great culture that could be military effective if done the right way. So make sure you do your homework before talking with them. And that way you already have the answers to some of these questions. Time is money for them as well. So when you already have the answers to say that, I know that you have 650 jobs on your site and that you're hiring in these 16 locations and that your primary industry is XYZ, that saves some of the small talks and lets you get down to business while showing that customer that you're prepared and ready to roll and a good fit for them. The second part is simplicity. How can your offering make their life easier? As simple as that is, but it's showcasing how you can do that for them. It's your accessibility. Are you there for them? This is distinguishing yourself as a strategic partner and not just another vendor or another widget that they have to buy and account for somewhere. And the final point is going to be accountability. You have to frame yourself as that trusted advisor, as that executor, as the person or the product or the solution that's going to get that job done from them and help them get some sleep at night when it's been with the things that have been keeping them up at night. So I talked a little bit about things to look for in the needs analysis, and I want to really hone in on this portion of it here. So there is a huge difference, and a lot of confusion comes from this, but it's circumstances versus needs. While you're going through your needs analysis, you are analyzing that customer and their brain to understand that need. But what you have to do first is really understand circumstances that are going on in their world and understand the difference between circumstances and a need. So when you're evaluating their circumstances, this is the who, what, when, where, why of what's going on in their world. So it is the, their environment, the problem, their current solution, whether it's working out or not, what their ideal solution is, or what is driving the factors behind their need. But circumstances at the end of the day are what drive an actual need. The need doesn't exist by itself. It's fueled by things going on in their world. And you have to do a deep dive to really understand those things. So you may want to get into checking out the determined business outcomes they're looking for, assessing their competencies and their deficiencies, prioritizing their needs and understanding what those are and what's driving those. Doing a cost benefit analysis where you find out that they're losing money by not bringing on the right headcount, or that their average cost per hire is $5,000 per person, but you can help them to eliminate that cost. But one of the best questions that I ask when conducting a needs analysis and getting some open responses from people is just asking the simple question, what is keeping you up at night? Or if I could create a solution to this problem, what would it be? Or if I had a magic wand and could do one thing for your business, what would that be? Allowing your customer to speak freely and vent to their solution, to their issues on there, could be the right opportunity for your solution to step in. So once you've done this and you understand the needs analysis and the circumstances that are driving needs on there, now we're going to cover the actual steps to the sales process. So in the sales process, I will say that this is a balance of science and art. There is a science to the framing of this and the sequence in which you present it that resonates within the human mind. And there's been studies, there's different sales methodologies and different models that are out there, but they're all based around some of the same framework that we're going to share with you today and give you some good pointers and a checklist for things that you can do to create your own scripts or your own sales process in here. So if you do have a pen and a piece of paper, this is a part where you should be taking some notes. We're going to make it as simple as possible and give you some homework to go back to really add meat to this bone structure that we're providing you today. But this is something you will need to practice. You're developing a brand new muscle here that you may or may not have ever used in your life. So this will be the framework for what you need, and then you're going to continue to strengthen on this. Another thing that I'll tell you as kind of like a phantom return on investment from the sales process, it doesn't have to just be with business. I use these same steps and these Jedi mind tricks that I'm going to teach you today on my kids to get them to eat their vegetables or to go somewhere. So this can be applied to all aspects of your life. And I highly recommend doing that as you continue to hone your craft and doing it in as many places as you possibly can. So the first portion of this is going to be the opening. The opening simply moves the conversation from small talk to business. We all get on calls when we're talking about the weather and the football and everything else that's under the sun, just trying to build some quick rapport. But again, we have 30 minutes or an hour to do this. So we have to get down to business at some point. And we don't want to be the rude one to say, all right, enough about the weather, let's do this. So these are the simple steps that you should process, but they're pretty simple. But if you come up with a short script and perfect it, it will flow smoothly and will seem very natural in your way of doing this. So with the steps that are on here, you're simply proposing an agenda, you're stating that value to the prospect, and then you're checking for acceptance. So I'm going to give you an example of one that I would use here for an opening. And this is an opening to your needs analysis, which you should be doing an opening for as well. But what I would like to do now is ask you a few questions and get to know a little bit more about your military talent program. What this will do for you is allow me to understand where your program is now, where you'd like it to go, and that way I can make some recommendations on how we can create an effective and sustainable initiative that pays off for years to come. How's that sound to you? I hit the steps, I proposed my agenda, I stated the value to them and why we should be moving to business, and then I made sure that we're on the same page and we're moving together correctly. And checking for acceptance is a simple thing, but it's always overlooked or not done. So make sure that you have the mutual buy-in there. But that was an opening to a needs analysis, and you can use an opening to anything that you're providing in your business, whether it's providing a demo, whether it's getting somebody to do a trial version, but there always has to be an opening to let people know that you're moving in a different direction than you were, and we're not talking about the weather in Boston anymore. The second portion of this and the second step is going to be probing. Probing is basically asking questions so that you can understand the circumstances that are driving their needs. And remember, circumstances are the who, what, when, where, why, and how of things going on in their world to really understand what's happening underneath the hood. While you're doing this, you have to use open and closed probes to explore that prospect's circumstances and their needs. So for open probes, those are allowing your client to speak freely, just giving them an open discussion. What happens if you don't solve this problem? Could you please give me some more background on that thing that you just said, or tell me more about that, or why do you think this is happening? Allowing them to give you and speak freely of information. Then you have your closed probes that require a single quantifiable fact or a yes or a no response. Do you have a veteran program? No, we don't. That's a fact. How many veterans have you hired in the past year? We've hired 12. That's a fact. So these are ways for you to lock down, narrow down facts, as well as explore that customer's mind and understand what's really going on in their world. That way you can see if your solution is the potential solution for them. And probing is a great thing to really understand. And this is what separates you from just assuming. And we all know what assume does, but this is what prevents you from assuming and just moving on into actually strategically selling and being and doing consultative selling with an actual client, is understanding their needs. Once you've probed correctly and you understand the ins and the outs, the timing has to be right. We have something in sales called the need behind the need. When you're probing, that's exactly what you're trying to dig up, the need behind the need. The simplest way to put this is that the need behind the need is what they want and why they want it. If you can't answer those questions within your probes and you haven't got down or condensed it to that bottom end of the funnel and distilled to that need behind the need, you're not done yet. The timing has to be right on this before you move on to supporting. And as salespeople, as business owners, supporting is our favorite thing because we can talk about our product all day and the solutions and everything that we provide on there, but we don't know why it resonates with that client yet. So finding out what they want and why they want it is paramount to this part of it before moving on to supporting. And then after you figure that out, there's a huge part of this that's usually missed, but it's confirming that need. So if I'm hearing you correctly, X, Y, and Z, and let them confirm with that. Do not assume again, if you've done that, don't just jump onto the probing step. But once you understand what they want, why they want it, confirm that. So you're saying you want this because of this. Yes, that's it. Awesome. Then you're acknowledging that need. You know what? I couldn't agree with you more. Or you know what? I understand where you're coming from in that. Acknowledge that. Agree with them. People want you to agree with them and to understand them. And when you have that connection, it's like, this person gets it. You have that instant connection there and you're building rapport throughout your conversation. So agreeing with them and acknowledging that need. I couldn't agree with you more. That is important for a business like yours. And then you go into describing relevant, and I highlighted and capitalized the word relevant, features and benefits. Because if you're talking about everything, as business owners, we know everything about our product, about our service, about our company. It's our baby. We eat this, we live this, we sleep it, we breathe it. But your client doesn't have that. They only want to hear about what's going to pertain to them. So instead of giving them the full feature list of everything that your product does or where it's been or the whole history of your company, listen to that need behind the need and how you can supply that need. So acknowledge with them. I couldn't agree with you more. That is important. Here we have X, Y, and Z, and what it will do for you is provide A, B, and C to help you overcome that need that you have there. And then you're checking for acceptance. Can you see how BufferSprings is going to take your military program to the next level? I do. Get that acknowledgement, get that acceptance in there to realize that they accepted your product. They told you a problem, you showed them a solution, and then you're both agreeing that you would be the best step forward to solve that problem. So I want to talk a little bit about that because I mentioned features and benefits. So I want to give you a good comparison analysis on, or a good comparison on here to kind of take a look at. So in the middle here, we have a simple backpack. Okay. The features of that backpack are, it has straps, it has pockets, it's made out of material, comes in different colors. Those are just features. There's nothing sexy about features. When you're buying a car, it has tires, it has rear view mirrors, it has a roof, it has seats. Like there's nothing sexy about those, but the benefits are the outcomes or the results that that user will hopefully experience by using your product or service. And this is the very reason why a customer becomes, or why a prospect becomes an actual customer, is because of the benefits that you provide. So as owners, we know all the features that live in our world. We built the app, we built the product, we understand the ins and outs of it, and it's sexy to us because this is our baby. But this customer doesn't want to see baby pictures of your kids. Like they want to see, what it does for them and what this product provides for them. So in this exercise here, put yourself in the customer's seat or be able to view things from their viewpoint. In sales, we have this thing called the WIFM, WIFFM, and that stands for, it's an acronym for what's in it for me. So when you're providing benefits and you're doing the supporting, remember you're providing relevant features and benefits. So Chris, we talked about those straps and how they're going to allow you to comfortably carry your gear without wearing out your shoulders like your old pack did. We talked about the number that there's 27 pockets on this backpack, and it'll help you organize all the stuff that you're using on your frequent camping trips without losing things or having to dig through the bottom of your pack to find what you need. We talked about the material, that this is the most durable and waterproof backpack you will ever have, and this is an investment for a lifetime of camping. And then we talked about the colors, that it's also stylish and fashionable, and how this is going to, wow your friends as you walk by with this stunning new backpack. So instead of talking about it has straps, pockets, and material, it's now we're making it relevant to the client, of showing him how that benefits them. And then at the end, it's checking for acceptance. Can you see why this is the best backpack in the world for you? Are you ready to purchase this backpack? See, there's a big dynamic and big difference there between just features and benefits. So make sure that you're using this correctly. Next, moving on is everyone's favorite part here. Now, one thing I'll say before moving on to closing is that probing and supporting may keep happening in a cycle. So if you have a product with multiple layers, here at BufferSprings, we are a consulting firm, but we also offer training. We help companies get better at understanding the military and understanding the crosswalks of the different branches of service and whatnot. So not only are we a consulting firm, we have training products. We also have project management products where we're actually helping them create, and we're there as a partner, as almost like a recruitment process outsourcing to help them build their programs. So probing and supporting may go in different circles. After they understood the one need and how you can supply that need, all right, now we're going to talk about your compliance. You said there were some problems in the needs analysis there. Tell me more about that. Now I'm probing, I'm trying to find another need behind the need. You may do this 3, 4, 5 times throughout your sales discussion. But once you have that and everything's been accepted that this is the right product and right way to move forward, then you're moving on into closing. And this is our favorite part as salespeople. And if we did our job right in the beginning portion of this, closing should be, this is almost like a knife fight. Like you don't want to just go in there and just take one big gouge at the end and hope you're going to close it off. When you're asking the right probes, you're supporting the right way. This is little tiny cuts. And at the end, you've made so much sense and showed them so much value that closing should be easy. There's a lot of different closes out there, but my favorite close is the assumption close, because that one shows me that I've done my job right. At the end, it's, hey, we talked about XYZ and how it's going to do this for you. We talked about this of how it's going to change your life and make things easier on you. What do you think the next potential steps are here, the next logical steps? And that's to move on, with me, to purchase from us and to work on a partnership here. So in closing, if you have multiple products or services, make sure the probing and supporting go back and forth. But once you have that concrete know-how and everybody's jiving, everybody's ready to move forward, you'll feel it if you did your job right. And a close can be anything. It's about gaining a commitment. It's not necessarily about signing on the line, which is dotted, as Alec Baldwin says in Glengarry Glen Ross, that they always be closing things from. But this is about gaining a commitment. It doesn't have to be signing a contract or making a monetary commitment. This could be you're setting up the next meeting for when budget season is, or you're bringing other members of the team onto a meeting to showcase this product to them and show it how it's going to impact the whole team. Or you're moving on to a formal product demo. Now that we talked about all these great things that BufferSprings does, I'd love to show you what it does. I'd love to get you into our ecosystem and do a demo of this, or we move on to a trial. What I'd love to do is a 3-month pilot with you to understand how we can work together. But this close, if you've done your job right throughout the probing, supporting, and the opening, this gets easier and easier as time goes on. And this is where revenue comes from for you guys. So looking at it in recap here, we talked about locking down your ICP and why this is important. You have to have your ideal customer profile. You have to know what target. And me being a Marine, not doing this to be crass or anything, if I shoot at 50 targets, I'm never going to qualify in the rifle range. What I'm focusing on is getting all my fundamentals down, my sitting, my breathing, my everything, so I can hit black on those first 10 clients that I'm trying to get to build my business, or my first 100 clients if we're a little bit evolved in the process. But it's narrowing it down, it's niching down on what you actually need and who you need to be talking to. We talked about that needs analysis where you are a doctor in your field. Understand their full chart before you make prescriptions, or else it's malpractice on your part. Understand that client inside and out. That's what separates you from being a partner or just being another vendor that's disposable. And then we went through the steps of the sales process. I left the fundamentals and the frameworks on the screen, but I'm leaving it up to you where you have the skeleton on there to build the meat on there from your own businesses and your own products or your own services and show those value points. If you want to hit Chris or I up, our information is in the chat on here. If you want to send a sample one over and, hey, Rob, what do you think of this opening? Or, hey, Chris, what do you think of this potential supportive statement on here? We are more than happy to help you. Our porch light is always on here. So I really appreciate everyone sticking through with me today. Hopefully you learned some things and you can tell by my energy level that I am passionate about this. Our door is always open to help out any of the small business owners who are on today's call. But if you aren't leveraging this, there are a ton of great resources. As a small business owner and growing business owner myself, I've really embraced the Verizon SBDR platform. And I know that a lot of you are a part of that. but there's some great courses that are in there of solidifying your sales pipeline. There's operational things, and I've learned a ton from this program, and the content is beautifully done, beautifully written, and I really appreciate the partnership that we have with Verizon. So there are a few different courses that I put on here for some samples. And then one of the best parts that I saw in there was your connection points into one-on-one mentors, where you can actually describe who you're trying to see, what you're trying to do with your business, and they'll connect you with other like-minded people who have been there and been there and done that. And then also having the group sessions and the other subject matter experts that you can connect with. Like, as small business owners, we all have our own struggles and things that we go through. And out in the public eye, we have to have our stuff together, and we have to act like we have this whole streamlined process. But the majority of us are just figuring this out. But we can go a lot further together collectively if we pick each other's brains and share in those resources and personnel that's out there. So make sure that you're taking advantage of what's there under the platform. And we'll leave a QR code up here at the end as well. If you aren't access to the platform, we'll send a QR code on the last screen so you can scan that and get into the platform. But highly recommend this. I've learned so much from it and continue to use it for everything that it is. So Chris, I'm going to pass the baton back over to you. I know that you have some great frameworks and some good suggestions of acquiring your first clients. And Chris has been doing this work for a good part of 20 years now. And these are things that she's learned along the way. So Chris, I'll pass the baton back over to you.
Yep, thanks. That was really terrific. As you can see, Rob just has so much energy and he's very good at what he does. I had the opportunity to go through Rob's presentation last night, and I wanted to summarize it here for you. I've pasted some of it in the chat, but just in short, be bold, show up, get in the car and go to that event, be strategic, think outside the box, identify yourself and differentiate yourself, listen and adapt accordingly. If you're perceived as thoughtful, organized, deliberate, and strategic, your customer will have a higher comfort level going forward with you. Pay attention to what your customers are saying. Think carefully about the difference between features versus benefits. Working with hundreds of companies over the last 25 years, I can tell you that creating a benefit statement is a lot of work, but if you just dedicate yourself to that one morning, you're going to find that you change your whole narrative in the way that you talk about your business. And you've got a great template here that Rob provided to do that. And finally, if all of these things are put into place systematically, you're going to find that your customers really accept what you're presenting because it's that good. So we'd love to get a copy of this to you if we can. We also have provided emails. One last thing I wanted to mention to you before we jump into a couple of questions is, with our program Spring Launch, we're launching an accelerator program in January. We'll be having a call for applications the first week of January. And with my background as a co-founder of an accelerator in Boston through the Canadian government, I've taken all of those tools and my network, and we're putting together a 4-week intensive deep dive for 10 companies to learn how to launch, differentiate, strategize, and then go and grow. And this experience is going to include not only mentors and coaching, we're going to integrate also our work with the Verizon SPDR and those coaches there, as well as all of the content. We're also doing one-on-one sessions to really go deep and understand what your business problems are so we can help you figure out what the barriers are and what's gating your growth. So we're very excited to tell you more about that. And I'll stop there. Let me just go through and just get a couple of questions here, Rob. While you were presenting, I took note of a couple of questions. One is that I actually love this, and I think it's so important, is somebody asked, is it okay to have some light banter before you start your sales call? And just on a personal note, I have a friend who is just magnificent at the art of conversation. Of course, he's Canadian, so they're very, hospitable and talkative and polite and lovely anyways. But my friend Buzz has a real knack for telling a story. Now, so not everybody can get away with it. But if you develop that rapport, in my opinion, I think it's okay. But how do you deal with that?
Yeah, great question. Now, remember earlier in the conversation, I said that people do business with people that they know, they like, and they trust. You have to build on those things, and getting to know you is part of that small talk, and getting to like you is, in that small talk, making jokes and humanizing yourself. And then they'll trust you when you start talking about your product and your expertise. And that comes a little bit easier than the other ones. But with getting to know them, like you have X amount of time on there, but humans are humans, especially after the pandemic. Like we all want to connect again and have meaningful connections. So get to know people a little bit, but also there's a reason there's an agenda for the call. And that's why the opening is important, to let you know when you're shifting from business. But every call that I'm on, I want to know how the weather is in Detroit. I want to know where, what they're working on or what's going on with their, in their world. Like people want to be able to talk with other people. So that is important, especially if you're building relationships. And my best clients are not transactional at all. They're friends of mine. They're partners. They're people that I know in and out. And you'll continue to evolve in that relationship as you continue to work with those clients. But I think that is hugely important, is to get to know people and to show them a human side of you and joke around, because they're not just doing business with your company, they're doing business with you.
Another question I think a couple of people asked me was, just in light of the fact that we all work remotely, is it more difficult to get someone's attention on the phone, or what's the temperature of people when you call them up, because we are all working remotely?
So there's a few different things going on there. So if you're doing outreach and things like that on LinkedIn, like everybody's on LinkedIn or going directly to their email inbox. After the pandemic, people who used to be in offices and they used to have their number 555, whatever, at their desk, like that's no longer there. They're no longer at that desk. So there's some of that going on. But if you're being calculated in your approach, it's easy to reach out to people or find, because you're not doing shotgun blasts out there. And I made this mistake early on, even when I established BufferSprings. I did a 44,000 person email blast. It wasn't very personal, wasn't catered to that business, just trying to ignite my business out of the gate. And I had 3 companies that weren't even a good fit for me, were the only ones that even clicked on it. So be meaningful, be resourceful, but understand something too. It's a game of numbers. People buy after their 8th attempt. Usually 80% of people buy after the 5th attempt to connect with them. So if you reach out to somebody at first and you don't hear from them, I only check my email inbox every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, because that's the only time that I have to check it. Other than that, I'm doing things like this. I can't be checking my email while I'm in front of you beautiful people right now doing this. So, some people are, spread out thin, especially us as business owners. We understand that more than anyone. So reach out politely, do your homework, make sure that it's catered to them and that it's not just cold calling, or you're seeing something or mentioning something that will resonate and show that you're not a robot. And then hone in again. Hey, Chris, I know that you're probably busy right now. I know that this time of year is crazy for everybody. Wanted to see if there's a better time for me to reach out, or if you got a chance to research what we do and whether you feel there's an initial fit or not. But keep trying, especially with those ideal clients. If you're respectful, if you're resourceful, and you're human, like that changes everybody else who's reaching out that's just bots.
Rob, excellent. I wanted to also say that thank you so much to all of the veterans who were able to log in today. And, in light of the fact that we're just wrapping up, Veterans Week and all of the activities that we've all been involved in, I'm just really excited that we're able to get across the finish line with these 3 courses, and wanted to thank all of the veteran owners for joining us and sending us their great questions. And also, I just love the fact that we're all here together, veterans and non-veterans. It's one big community. I've seen so many questions come in. We're all business owners. If we can share practices, tactics, strategies, we can all help one another. And part of that accelerator program in January is a bit of a peer advisory experience. We'll be bringing in 2 or 3 small businesses to talk about sales strategies that have worked really well for them. So that's coming soon as well.
Yeah, and I really can't wait to host that cohort and start working more intimately with other small businesses to help you guys accelerate and get to where you need to be. And this is lifeblood for me, especially when we're, others, small business owners, we relate to each other. We understand the struggles and everything else, and are allowed to be vulnerable in these kind of formats. And I appreciate that. And for the veteran business owners in the room as well, it's great to have both of those dynamics where vets speak veteran, we understand each other, and then business owners speak business owners, and we can combine those two like this. It's a beautiful thing for me. So appreciate everybody jumping on and spending some time with us today. Hopefully this was, valuable for what you're building. Again, our porch lights are always on here. Feel free to reach out to Chris or myself. Consider us friends and allies in the space. But really appreciate everybody coming in today and what you're doing out there. I know sometimes it's a lonely business and a lonely hill to climb, but we make up for 65% of the job growth in America as small businesses. Like, we are the lifeblood of our country's ecosystem. And I hope you understand the great things that you're doing to continue making the country great. So appreciate you all. We have about 6 minutes left. So I want to open it up if there's any other questions that anyone has as well, since we still have some time on here.
Yeah, while I'm waiting for that, I can share one question that came in from one of our audience. There was a question about, if you're going out and you're hiring people to do your sales work for you on commission, where can you find them? How can you find them? How many do you need, et cetera? And my comment back was, it's really not about how many, but if you can find one good one. But I'd like to hear your thoughts about the team that you work with. I know you have consultant colleagues across the country. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in my history here, I've worked in a lot of different sales dynamics, I guess. So when I was a Marine recruiting station commander, I was literally taking Marines out of a mud puddle or out of a helicopter and having no sales experience whatsoever. And it was my job to train them to be salespeople and to be recruiters and brand ambassadors out there in the space. Then when I transitioned out, I went into another company that had, I think, like 35 salespeople at that time from all different backgrounds and everything else, but it was their internal sales force. Then I've worked with a few startups that have actually subbed that out. And to me, like, and there are instances, I'm sure, where this works out, but there are so many firms out there that are going to be hitting you up as small business owners that are, hey, we're SDR, we're sales development rep firm, and we outsource that stuff to you. They may generate a lot of leads or get people over to you, but they may not be the right fit. So make sure that you are vetting those people out. What I would recommend, if you're a solo founder or a small business, you are the primary salesperson. Whether you're an introvert or whatever it is, and I've heard those, I've heard those things out there. I'm an introvert myself. On the Myers-Briggs spectrum, I am an INTJ. So engaging with people is not my strong suit, but in order for my business to be successful, I know that I have to break out of my comfort zone. As business owners, we break out of our comfort zones all the time. We learn accounting principles, we learn company structuring and formatting and all that stuff. So this is something you'll have to do if you want your business to be successful, but you have to be your primary salesperson. Using these frameworks and methodologies that we covered today, you can put the bare bones into there and start understanding where you fit into the ecosystem. But I would highly recommend, before you know what your product is or who your client is at the end of the day, to have some outsourced person that doesn't know your business. They don't have your drive. They didn't walk uphill both ways in the snow like we have to create our businesses. They're simply just dialing for dollars or having somebody else do that that's not an equipped salesperson. So that's, in equating that to being a Marine, we're taking people who aren't Marines, who haven't been to boot camp, who aren't soldiers or anything else, and then we're just putting them out there on the firing line and hoping things go well. And it's recipe for disaster. Make sure that the people know and love your business as much as you do. If you bring on an initial salesperson, make sure that they share your vision and your mission with the company, and that they know how to speak the way that you would speak about the project and have the passion that you would have in that. Having people just do transactional things is not going to work out well for you.
Rob, your energy is super contagious.
I'm this way all day. Hard for me to go to sleep.
Yep. One last thing, we've got just a few questions all throughout the chat. Folks would love to have access to our scripts and our tools, and they want the recording and so on and so forth. We are going to actually take most, if not all, of the content from the 3 webinars that we did in November, and we'll be turning those into tools and downloadable content for all of you. It's free, and we'll make it available to you. I think the challenge we have today is, just before we sign off, we may not have access to this chat box, like all the emails in this chat box. We may not have access to that, Rob. So I hope you don't mind, I've just been giving folks our emails, and I can have Michelle follow up on my end, and maybe you could have, I want to say Meredith, but that's not her name, your partner.
Yeah, Meredith.
Meredith follow up on your side. So we are going to be turning all of that into content for you. Also happy to engage with you and walk you through that as well. So sorry we can't provide it to you just right now, but we're on the Verizon SBDR platform, and off platform we have a little more flexibility. But what we love about the Verizon SBDR platform is we got to meet all of you. And there are so many of you from across the country. So any last words, folks? I see that we still have 77 people on the call, Rob, and there's been some great comments about the content you provided today. So thank you so much for putting it together. I can't wait to get started in January for all of the rest of it. And I look forward to receiving applications from this group and many others for that program.
Yeah, same. This has been amazing, and the showing today was awesome. So thank you all so much for showing up. Chris, I do have the first 2 sessions posted on the BufferSprings YouTube channel. Do you want me to share that real quick?
Yes, can you share that? That would be great. And I put your email and my email in here a few times, but I want to make sure everybody has it.
Yeah, feel free to hit us up directly. I put the YouTube channel in there for Buffer Springs. Session 1 and 2 were on there. Once this one's batched and recorded, we'll put this one in there as well. But use these, feel free to butt your scripts off of us. I mean, we're here, we're friends, we're allies. Like, let us know what you need. But, you know, we want to see you be successful. Like, you're
Yeah,
us. We're
one last thing, and I'll sign off. I know that our friends at Next Street put in a link for a survey. You know, it would really be helpful to us if you have anything that you'd like to learn about, or anything that you didn't see in the presentation today, or that you'd like to see in the future on a separate functional area. You know, if it's not sales, maybe it's operations, maybe it's finance, funding, investment. I have a fair amount of background in driving investment towards small businesses through my network. And we'll be bringing in featured speakers who are experts on that subject as well. So please go ahead, tell us about the help that you're looking for and the advice that you need, so that we can incorporate that in our next block of content. And Rob, I guess we have to sign off now.
Perfect. Well, people, it was great hanging out with you today, and looking forward to hearing from you again soon. And again, take the survey, good, bad, or ugly. Even if you hated today's session, let us know.
Yep.
Vote,
Thank
people.
you. Thanks, everybody. So nice to meet you all. Look forward to learning more.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.